Love songs permeate the top list of the Billboard 100 chart, mostly because we all know what it's like to be in love, or rather, we all know what it's like to have a heartbreak. Songs in their poetic format tell a story, lead us down a path of twists and turns, and sometimes love songs start all about the love, then switches up on us and tell of a fury love has put us through. Take, for example, Chappell Roan's The Subway, debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Top 100 list. I'm sure many of you have not heard of this song at all, but if you decide to listen to it after church, please choose the non-explicit version. All right. This is not a drill. We know now what to do. Well, we are back together. We're grateful for a wonderful fire drill of last week of getting us out together. One of the things that we often said was that we've never had a drill inside of the middle of worship. And so I think we have counted those off. What had happened was that our vent hood down in Community Hall stopped working. So this is another time for me to give a plea to that. Giving is important. All right, where was I? I was talking about Chappell Roan. I promise I'll cut some of my sermons so we'll make it out in time. But The Subway, number 3 on the Billboard's 100 top 100 songs. It's a deeply emotional ballad that captures the bittersweet ache of love lost in the haunting memories that resurface in the everyday places. Set in the mundane yet symbolic setting of a subway ride, the song transforms a routine commute into a journey of heartbreak, nostalgia, and longing. With raw poetic lyrics and a haunting vocal delivery, Roan paints a vivid picture of encountering a former lover, or being reminded of them in public space where the world continues to move even as time feels frozen for a person still hurting. The subway itself becomes a metaphor for the emotional journey of grief after love ends. The dark tunnels, the fleeting lights, the passing strangers mirror in the internal chaos of a heart still trying to make sense of what went wrong. The song doesn't just recount heartbreak, it embodies it, giving voice to those whose quiet, aching moments often carry alone. It speaks to anyone who has ever been blindsided by grief in a familiar setting, reminding us that healing isn't linear. It moves us like a train through dark tunnels, sometimes circling back before it moves forward again. And today's love song comes from the book of Isaiah. First, Isaiah, to be exact, in the early chapters, we are just getting a glimpse of who this 8th century prophet is. But for this setting, he's more like a DJ, sharing songs of poetic nature to tell a story of the relationship between God and Israel. Just imagine it is the perfect party. Isaiah is on the turntables. Hits of Sonny and Cher, Morgan Wallen, Tina Turner, and Fleetwood Mac is just going on and on. The party is feeling good. The vibes are right, and everyone begins to think that this prophet isn't like the others. He's not as angry. He's a bit calm. Begins smooth with a nice beat. And Isaiah leans into the microphone and says, "This one right here is for all the lovers tonight." And it begins that I will sing for my beloved, my love song concerning his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard and on a fertile hill. Then it begins to tell of all the work the beloved has done to till the ground, to make sure that the ground is perfected and ready to reap something good, a good vine, good grapes, to make extraordinary wine. Then the twist came, though the vineyard was prepared in the best way possible, only for good to reap, the thing that came was rotten grapes. And this is where the record scratches. Everyone realizes this song of the vineyard isn't going to be good. It's not a Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell love ballad anymore. And I like the way that one theologian puts it. The poet turns an oaky Chardonnay into a shot of vinegar. He uses half of it to clean the floor and the other half of it to tenderize the meat. The love song is strange enough to begin with. The object of affection is not a person, but a vineyard. But soon the song shifts shapes and becomes an invitation, an oracle, a parable, an accusation. And the poet is not shackled by the constraints of familiar genres, but uses them to create or subvert expectations, to elicit first participation, then frustration, and finally conviction. The vineyard owner is God, and the vineyard is the kingdom of Israel and Judah. And though the song starts out about a deep love preparing all that could be, it really is much about a heartbreak between God and Israel. And much like Chapel Roan's poetically spelled out song, everything reminds God about them. But sadly, the heartbreak is so deep that it pierces God's heart. Why did I deserve rotten grapes? Didn't I treat you well? Didn't I pave a pathway forward for you? Didn't I give you everything you need to make the relationship grow and flourish? Yet you have offered back to us not righteousness or justice. What you have offered back is iniquity. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take down your hedges. I'm going to stop the rains from happening. I'm going to let you be trampled over. No longer will I cultivate and prune you to satisfaction. Why? Because as the last lyric of the song says, the bountiful harvest which God hoped for was a just society. And inedible grapes that God received instead are violence and oppression. As the New Jewish Publication Society translation captures the effect, God hoped for justice, but behold injustice, for equity, but behold inequity. And although Isaiah 1-7 is concerned with the absence of justice and righteousness, the poem offers no explanation of these concepts. It assumes that the audience already knows what's it about. The Hebrew word for justice is mishpat. But there's more meaning than just justice involved in this definition of the term. As one put it, justice, everyone knows what it is, but no one knows really what it is. And when we look at justice, when we look at mishpat, it can encapsulate many types of justices. For the book of Isaiah, understanding justice refers to the fair and equitable relationship within a society grounded in just will of God and established through honest procedures. And when justice fails, it becomes an economically or a politically powerful people have taken advantage of the oppressed. Righteousness refers to that relationship that the Lord, for which springs loyalty and the Lord's expectations of justice upon. This song is for us just as in the same way it was for Israel and Judah. And please don't hear me say it's all about wrath or God's wrath. There's enough wrath out there than bringing it in here. But God paved a way for goodness, justice, righteousness, and as a society have we failed to live into the preparedness of the vineyard. And this is where I struggle so much for those who want a Christian nation. One, it misses the fact of that other faiths and cultures have also been part of the culture, and it's important to honor and uphold that. But secondly, most times the idea is missing justice as a core component. That mishpat is seen so much in the Bible that it's hard to miss, and even harder to worship God and not also incorporate justice into your daily lives. So when we see genocides around the world and the refusal to provide food, we have withheld justice of God for the human condition. When we sit and watch feeling helpless as the powerful seek to do nothing, when we enact laws that discriminate against women and their bodies, when there are only men in the room making decisions, we have done an injustice. When, as George Mason stated this week in a press conference, when the life expectancy of someone living in 75215 is 22 years less than someone living in 75204, and those zip codes are separated by 1.1 miles at the nearest point, something is deeply wrong in our city. We've done an injustice. And we can sit and talk all day, line by line, how justice from a universal, national, and local perspective has been failing over and over. But our God demands justice and becomes heartbroken over when we have failed to ensure that it is an accolade of the gospel. We have uncovered Lady Justice's eyes and no longer is impartial. We have taken away her scales and failed to weigh evidence and arguments on both sides before reaching a verdict. She has been stripped of her robe and posture, which is once to represent the seriousness and dignity and the integrity and strength of the law. And we've only left the sword, which represented the power and authority of the law to enforce decisions and punishment. And if punishment by those in power is all we have left, it's no wonder the oppressed are constantly being oppressed and taught to believe that others who are oppressed are the problem rather than the oppressor. But in some places, in some ways, in some feeling deep down in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, I have hope. Hope that we can turn the vineyard back into good grapes. Hope that God still entrusts into us as humans, as Christians, as good people, to go out into this world to define justice and righteousness. As Heschel points out, that you can't have justice without righteousness, that righteousness is something that is deep within us, that it's shared into our individual lives, but shared out into a community of justice. Together, that we do what is right. Together, we do what is good. Together, we do love and uphold it together. I still have hope that there's justice, and that we as a community, as a people, can be just-minded. Amen.